Hello everybody and welcome back to We Need to Talk About Ghosts. Now, as you may be able to tell, or you might not be able to tell, but you should be able to tell by now, this is indeed a handheld recorded version of the actual show, because I did say we would return on this day, and by God we will have, indeed, returned, but not at full power, more power, because basically today was cut off for solely recording purposes. And then we got a phone call to say, oh, your will's in. Because it turns out when somebody dies, you don't have their will. You have a copy of their will. And then you have to go to a solicitor and they go send off to the Will Palace. And Will Palace call back when they can send it out. Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, we got a phone call this morning to say, you can come and pick up the will. And because we're all three of us as trustees or whatever it is, I don't know. The other two were very much like, we need to just get this sorted today. So it was like, okay, that's all well and good, but I'm okay, I'm not recording then. So what I thought we'd do instead is we just have a little catch up. Yes, and it's not a normal episode, but we have returned. Hello. What we're going to do instead is we're going to have an elongated Becca's Reddit corner without Becca, because Becca's gone to Llandudno. I was due to go with her, but unfortunately we knew things like this will thing were going to come up. Well, should I say, we didn't. But we had an inkling there'd be more to do. So I said I'd hang back a few days. And lo and behold, day one, the will's ready. So scuppered plans are plenty. But not to worry, we shan't let it daunt us in any way, shape or form. Oh, by the way, if you are interested in listening to my dulcet tones more, you can go to patreon.com/we need to talk about ghosts. And when you do so, you should get two podcasts each and every week. Yes, one of them is a Patreon podcast where we do talk about ghosts. In fact, we talked about vampires on Sunday. Yes. And the other is just me rambling, which is basically an elongated format of what I'm doing right now. But we are going to stay on topic, as I say, because we are going to look at some Reddity things which go bump in the night. And the Reddity things that go bump in the night better be both bumpy in the nighty and entertaining. So let's see if they do either of that. The first one seems to be very short. It says, it's called Woman at the Bridge. Dun dun dun. Earlier this year in January, my friend and I were scouting locations for our film project at a swinging bridge an hour away from our hometown. Firstly, Kev needs to know what a swinging bridge is, because that sounds awfully dangerous. Anyway, as we crossed, a woman on a nearby vehicle bridge. See, so there's a normal bridge. Why are you on a rope? Tarzan. Anyway, she shouted out, mistaking us for somebody else. We told her she's got the wrong people, but she chased us across the bridge. We hurried away, and she eventually stopped, leaving us both unsettled and wondering about her intentions. That's an interesting one. Because why would you run away? I mean, if she goes like, Jeff, and you go, no, it's Kev. And she goes, it's not, it's Jeff. No, honestly, it's Kev. And she starts like heading for you. I'd be like, I mean, unless she's like, and I'm going to pardon the French, I'm going to bloody kill you, Jeff. Then you run. If she's just like, no, wait, for all you know, you could have been on fire and not realised it. But can I just commend you on your survival skills? Because evidently you might have been on fire on your arse and you've sat down and put it out and been none the wiser. We've all been there. So yeah, that was not really ghostly. But we'll forgive you because it was kind of, I found out what a swing bridge was anyway. My house, this is just something called, just an experience I want to share. Okay. Blasé. Very, not the Pogues. Who is it? Who saw the Pixies? It's very Pixies of you. My house is a semi-detached house. Ooh. My neighbour had a son who was 21 when he committed suicide, nearly 2 years ago at the start of winter. Well, Kev feels bad now. His son grew up in that house as a child and has spent large amounts of his life there. At the start of winter this year, it was 8 p.m. This was only posted a day ago, so imagine you mean last year. At the start of this year, it was 8 p.m. Oh, no, the start of this winter. Let me get that right. At the start of winter this year, it was 8 p.m. at night. I was upstairs watching TV in my room. My bedroom's opposite his dad's bedroom. I hear a lot of noise coming from his dad's bedroom. The noise was movement. The noise was so loud I could hear it over the TV. So I messaged my neighbour asking him what he was doing. He said it was nothing to do with him. Does he mean as in like, that noise? Oh, it's not to do with me. Or, it's not to do with you? I'm unsure. The noise then travelled downstairs into my front room. I then heard a man walking up every step of my stairs across the landing. I know it was a man because of how heavy the footsteps were on the stairs, yet there was no one in the house. In brackets, my stairs and landing are wooden and creak. I just want to throw out the random idea of a obese woman. You know, just going to say it. Anyway. I then heard the wooden bed creak in the other room. The bed was near a wardrobe with a very narrow gap to walk through. His son was very broad, so I believed he bumped the bed because he didn't realise how narrow the gap was. I'm not too sure what this is going on about, or where this guy lives. How does his bedroom window face the dad's bedroom window? I don't know how... The layout of this is so hard to follow. Anyway, I also have a dog. Good. That didn't once react to the sound. I very strongly believe his son's ghost was here that night. I also believe he will be drawn to the house while his father is still here on earth. Someone said, just an opinion on my part. Well, of course it is. What else is it going to be? Just to throw some lore at you. It's the same demon or demons who influenced his son to commit suicide. It or they are still in the home. If you're a believer in Christ, pray and tell these demons or demon to leave this home. They are not welcome in your home. Tell them to stay away from you and your family and friends. What a load of bull crap. Because, don't get me wrong, I'm a believer in all sorts, as we know, as the podcasts prove. But I don't, and I never have, liked it when someone associates suicide with demonic influences. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm not saying there aren't cases out there where people are very, have very compelling and convincing arguments. But, and I know that there is like a sort of floating idea, especially in the Christianity, that suicide is a demon, like incarnate, if you will, or personified. And you hear them say, release this person from the demon of suffering, the demon of suicide. But no, I think it's too easy to hang your hat on something like that, as opposed to maybe addressing the broader picture of somebody's actual mental health. That might be an idea, mightn't it? As opposed to pointing at a demon. Maybe not be such a bellend to someone. Maybe ask them if they're all right. Do these sorts of things. Which reminds me, I need to do the very same thing very shortly. No, hold on. Let me clarify. I mean call someone to make sure they're okay, basically. Just in case anyone was getting the wrong idea. So yeah, no to that person. Someone else has said, did anything else happen? It's hard to say what this is. I don't know why nobody's commenting to say, what the frig was that description of where you live? I would disagree with the previous poster of demons. There you go. They're actually quite rare. Oh, they're disagreeing because they're a demonologist. This is the reason why I'm preferring more and more just to read like published books from people with credibility than the internet. Because every man and his wife is a demonologist. Praying only works if you believe in it. I agree with that. If it bothers you, I would open the door when you hear those noises again and tell them to be quiet and leave. Try ringing a very loud bell throughout the house that has banishing effects several times per day. Interesting. I've never... Well, in fact, that's a lie. I have heard of that. The idea of bells having a cleansing tone, which is interesting. Because there's a lot of work being looked at in terms of frequencies and the healing effects, or the alleged healing effects of frequencies. So it would make sense that there would be a tone. See, they're not specific enough, though. I don't think it's just going to be a case of ringing a bell gets rid of a ghost. I don't think ghosts are like, bell, not a bell sound, for God's sake. let's get out of here. There needs to be more information there for me. There needs to be a frequency. You know what I mean? That's the only way it would work in my eyes. I know you could say quite rightly, well, what the frig do your eyes have to do with anything? Well, sight, actually. But I don't claim second sight. But my point being is, yeah, everybody only is like, oh, well, it can't be. Everyone, they like to have I don't know whether I'm doing it now, actually. I don't know whether I'm contradicting myself, but they all like to have a standpoint from an expert point of view about the paranormal, and you can't. No one can. I mean, ironically, I am talking about writing a book about. I am, but my point being, I spoke about this on Dark Bites the other day. The point of it was, and I still stand by it, is that we're still using terminology to do with ghosts that has existed for 40 years, longer, in fact. So, for example, we tend to go by a sentient ghost, a residual haunting, a poltergeist, and the ideas and theories behind those three are very, for the majority of people, set in stone. Like a stone tape theory being a residual haunting, a sentient spirit being obviously someone who can see you and interact with you, and a poltergeist being what many people agree is just a generated malevolent evil, or not even evil, just a generated malevolent energy. Doesn't even have to, maybe it's not necessarily trying to be malevolent, but it's hardly helpful to someone when a vase smashes. So yeah, so what I was going to do, or what I am going to do, is because, think about it, since these terms came about, we've had Shadow Man, Hat Man, stops there, Skinwalkers. I know Skinwalkers have been around for ages. They didn't need Kev to come and verify them. But my point being is, for example, we do need new terminology. So in the old world of talking about ghosts, a poltergeist moves things, but we talk then about sentient spirits and hauntings nowadays that also move things. So we'd say it's a sentient haunting showing poltergeist behaviour, but that doesn't work. That's too long-winded. Do you know? And if you look at some of the old classical ghost stories, it's very defined in terms of, a spirit walks through walls. A spirit may lower a temperature in a room, but it can't interact with the physical. Yet every story we seem to get or hear nowadays is something moving, is something, having this crossover effect of between sentient spirit and poltergeist. And also, like I say, the more modern phenomenons, thing like, it started with the Shadow Man. He then developed the hat, became the Hat Man. I believe, what was the new one, the latest one that seems to be doing the rounds? I can't recall. But my point is that since interest has grew, since the internet has grew, really, we haven't broadened our vocabulary, or we haven't broadened the paranormal lexicon about how we describe ghosts. Yet before the internet, they were very defined, very well defined and misunderstood. But they were, and even with the power of the internet, it's not been done. So I think that's what I'm going to start for the next few months. I'm going to start on a book, maybe an A to Z sort of thing, or maybe just a book of theories and suggestions. Somebody sent me an email through, actually, somebody who's possibly listening to this, about research and assistance and stuff like that, after I mentioned it on Dark Bites. So I'm going to reply to that person at some point today, because it's a really good idea. And they also were suggesting maybe getting contributors to it, or contributors to it. They mentioned Mr. Bestel, of course, because Paul is an encyclopedia when it comes to many things of the strange. I do think he's pushed more towards the cryptid UFO land, but he still knows more than everyone about ghosts. So he is arguably a very good shout from that individual, whoever you are. And it's not because I'm ignorant and forgot your name. It's just that I read the email once and forgot your name. I would tell people on the other Patreon as well. There's a weird one before we move on with Reddit. Get onto this, as we say in Liverpool. So me cousin's wife and my cousin obviously turned up the other day before the funeral, and not on the day of, a few days before, and they had a picture of me mum that me auntie, who's now deceased, kept on her bedside table till the day she died, and it's of me mum when she was like 16. Really nice photo, black and white, obviously, because it was way back when. And I said, and our Catherine, my sister, who's the image of her in it, or absolute image, said, you can keep that because I've got a copy. I said, you know what? Sometimes with photos, if you hold them upside down, it looks even more like the person, I find. And I think it's because your brain just tries to see who it is and, invents things. Anyway, so I turned the photo upside down and they all went, no, what are you on about, you lunatic? So I went, okay. So I set it upright and put it back by the TV, right? But this photograph itself, it's like a black and white photocopy of a photograph. I think it was because me Auntie Sheila would have had this up from like 1990 something. So I think it was the 1990s version of enlarging a small photograph. So it's basically a photocopy. So what I thought I'd do is take a photo of it and run it through some apps and try and smooth it out and make it look a bit more natural. Anyway, I take a photo of it with my phone. Uh, as opposed to my throwaway Max Spielman camera. And when I look at the image, it's upside down. Right? Now that's just the sort of joke my mum would do. And I mean, like, imagine if you just you might be saying, yeah, well, what's weird about that? But it is weird. Take your phone out now, point it at your back garden and take a photo. And then look at that photo. If that photo was upside down, wouldn't you be a bit like, what the fuck? Well, that's exactly what happened. That's why it was weird, especially given what had been said. On the subject of ring bells, cleanse the place, somebody, again, after the funeral, said, are you going to do a blessing in the house? Get Father Anton to come in and bless the place and cleanse the place? And I said, absolutely not. Absolutely not. This is where we all grew up. This is my mum and dad's house. If they are, for whatever reason, around here still, then they're here for a reason, whether it to be comfortable, whether it for it to be to look after me whilst I'm staying, whatever reason, but they're here. Imagine shooing them away. This is my house now. Start spraying Nirvana on the walls and stuff. Anyway, back to Reddit. Let's see. My boy. Oh no, it's a dead dog story. I don't want that. Because as we all, if you've travelled on this journey with me since day one, then you'll know that I initially was like, pet stories. I hate ghost pet stories. They're so dull. And then we got a cat, and I was like, oh my god, if she ever dies, she better come back as a ghostie. And therefore I can't read any pet stories because I get very upset. How about this one? Tall, blinding, white entity. I think we'll have you. Thank you very much. This happened when I was young. Probably 4 or 5. It sounded like Trump again. Probably 4 or 5. I need to perfect a Trump. Anyway, I was running, I had the A in. I was running around my backyard, playing by myself. My dad and elder brother were watching TV in the house, not far from me, but not within eyesight. I had this plastic play structure with a slide on it. Lucky thing. I was running in circles around it, and whilst doing that, I turned the corner, and standing in front of me was a tall, maybe 6 feet or more, blinding white humanoid figure. Interesting description. I could make out a head, arms and legs, but it had no features, just a sharp white. I only saw it for a half a second, but the images burned into my brain. I instantly fell backwards on the ground, bawling my eyes out. I ran inside for my dad. He came outside to see nothing. I've never seen anything like this before, to my knowledge, or after. I don't know if I could call it a ghost. I really don't know what it was. But this happened 20+ years ago, and I can remember it as if it were yesterday. I have no personal memory of this, but my mum tells me I would talk to people who weren't there when I was young. I'd lay in our hallway, stare at the ceiling, and have conversations with people for hours. That's horrible. I'd see a man that resembled my great-grandfather in my room at night. I don't know if there's any connection, but I figured I'd mention it. I can't recall having many, if any, paranormal interactions after my run-in with this figure. Interesting. Because you could imply from that this big, lanky, white, featureless spectre has been like Ah, we seem to have given the wrong person the gift. I best go and take it back. So that's an interesting one. I do like that. But there you go. Where does that fit within the realm of the lexicon? Do you know what I mean? What would you call that? Because it appears to be sentient. It seemed to be aware of him, so it's not residual. It's featureless. So is it more of a, well, they've called an entity. Entity is an all-defining, an all-encompassing name for something, I suppose. Very interesting. Then, I like it when they put a question mark after a thing. It's only small too. This is called swaying ghost? Question mark. So today I called my. I shouldn't have to say. You know what? I shouldn't have to say question mark if my if my cadence was good enough. So let me try that again. Swaying ghost. That's just like I'm offering someone a swaying ghost. Let me try that again. Swaying ghost? No. Swaying ghost? Question mark. So today I called my cousin for a chat since he lives in the forest. Use commas. Please use commas. Okay. Because it's not I decided to give my cousin a call for a chat since he lives in the forest. That's not the reason. So today I'm going to add the commas in as I go. Let's see if we can do this. On the fly, grammatical corrections. Let's see. So today, comma, I call my cousin for a chat, comma, and since he lives in the forest, comma, I decided to ask him if he's ever seen any creepy shit there, especially at night. Surprisingly, comma, he said he has. He explained to me that one night he got up to drink some water, they've actually put a comma, but then he noticed something weird outside, which was a glowing figure in the distance, and it kept swaying. What is it with these glowing figures? What's in the tap water around there? Anyway, he said he stared at it for 3 minutes, trying to figure out what it was. What are you? And it continued to sway back and forth. He said it looked like a person, but he wasn't sure, because it was so bright. Was it a ghost or something else? This is what I'm talking about. Right, I'm going to screenshot that. Right. And then it just popped up, sending this post to someone. It looks better when you share it. No, I'm saving it for myself. Thank you very much. Right, now let me get back to that one I've just read. Where was it? Tall, blinding white entity. Because this is what I mean. This is what I'm talking about. About an update to the paranormal lexicon. And this is not intended, obviously, to pull a Jim Harold. I often find that when I tell stories, a lot of them will align together. Ha! Anyway, but yeah, this wasn't intended. But it does appear, that those two could be a similar type of entity. I mean, it's a wonderful. When I say it's wonderful, it's a magical sort of idea to think that there are new deities and entities and type of ghosts being formed, or maybe ones that have always been there. Wow! Think of it like this. I can't believe I've just wowed at my own thought. What a big head. Anyway. But imagine if you can hear a dog barking, it's a dog barking. if you can hear a dog barking and it's annoying you, I'll go and shoot it. Anyway, but imagine this. Prior to internet, right? Prior to the internet, there has and always was, say, 500 variety of spirits, right? Including this tall white chap of dazzling colours of white. But prior to the internet, nobody could really, you'd just seen a ghost. You couldn't describe it as well because there might have been no one there to tell right away. So you'd see it, you'd go, ah, and then you'd spend the rest of your week in Cambridge and you'd come back home and you'd go, my God, I opened the door and there was a white ghost there. That's why ghosts are white. That's why we call them white ghosts, yes. Like the white lady and things like that. So I do wonder if these 500 breed or type of ghosts have always been there, but we've narrowed it down. As opposed to me thinking, oh, we've only had these, let's open it up. Maybe they've always been there, and we've narrowed it down due to the lack of speed that information and news can travel. And now it's opening back up due to the internet. So things like the Shadow Man, things like that, the Hat Man. Hat Man's a weird one, isn't he? I reckon if you looked hard enough, the Hat Man would have an origin point. The way they covered it really well on the good old Parapod. they investigated the chupacabra. Now, chupacabra literally means goat sucker, but they found the origin story, the genesis point of the creation of the chupacabra, although people are still adamant somewhere that it exists, but it doesn't. It was all down to this woman who watched Species, you know, that film, Species, where the woman's part alien, part human, and she thought it was a documentary. Yeah, that's basically it. And then she went out to whatever local pasture she was in, and she saw a goat that had mange, and it dried out. And she was like, that must have been that creature I seen on that documentary. Oh my God. I mean, what an imagination you must have, though, to think a film's a documentary. I don't know whether I'd like that or hate that. I'd love it if it was Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, because I'd be like, watched an amazing documentary the other day. This fella in a purple suit, honest to God. Basically, he tries to trap you in riddles, but if you give a nice, polite answer that is for the betterment of mankind, he gives you the key to the castle. Yeah. So, basically, it was a great documentary. Eat That, David Attenborough, or Richard Attenborough. I can't remember which of the Attenborough brothers is the one we all like. Anyway, this one, the last one we'll do today, is called What Was It? Let's see, that was quite good, because there is a question mark at the end of it. What was it? That's better. While I wait for my husband to give me the details about the story he personally wanted me to share, I figured I'd tell you all about one of my experiences. Fair enough. I used to have a couple of friends that would all hang out at one friend's house. I'll name them Ashley and Josh for this story. Ashley and I would go and hang out at Josh's every day and smoke and play pool in the garage. One night we're there pretty late and Josh ran inside to grab a drink or something. Ashley and I noticed he was taking a while and went in to check on him. When we walked in, we saw the back of him walk by the living room and he made his way around the staircase to go upstairs. We followed him, but he was already at the top of the stairs. He didn't answer us when we asked what he was doing, and once we got to his room, he was not there. We were confused and creeped out because we both saw him with our own eyes, so we decided to just go back down to the garage and wait. He was already sitting waiting for us by the time we came back. Ashley asked why he ignored us when we followed him upstairs, and he looked at us like we were crazy and said he never went upstairs. After he said that, fear hit me when I realized something weird was going on, but we chose to act like nothing happened and went on with our night. The house and the property were already pretty creepy, and I used to make Josh walk with me to the end of his driveway every time I stayed past dark. If I'd walk it alone, it felt like some kind of dark, heavy energy was right behind me and pushing me until I got to the road. Ugh. I don't know the history of this place, but I was always scared of it, and we never figured out what happened that night. I eventually went my own way and stopped hanging out there shortly before I met my husband. I still talk to Ashley to this day, but I haven't heard from Josh since. Now that I know everything I know, it's probably one place I never go back. And somebody has said, that is creepy. I love it when people take the time to, comment in general without any sort of feedback make me giggle. I like things like that. And a nice positive comments where somebody took the time to say, that was a good story. That was creepy. We all know my thoughts on people who decide to spend the time signing up to a site to leave a bad review for something. It's like, get a life. Literally get a life. Especially if it's a podcast or something. You don't listen. Why have you sat through it? You know within 5 minutes if you're going to like something or not. I don't like boiled potatoes. I don't sit there and force myself to eat a bowl full and then go to Mr. Potato owner and say, I ate your spuds, just had a bowl full. They'd be like, why didn't you stop after a bite? Well, I wanted to complain. And was it easy to do? No, I had to sign up to the forum. It took me ages. Have you got nothing better to do? No, I've got no life at all. Do you want to hang out? A bit, yeah. See, maybe these people who leave comments are just lonely. I don't know. So maybe we should check in on them. And on that bombshell, I've just reminded myself I need to check in on someone too. But, as I say, this is more of a segue to normality than a normal episode, forgive me. And we will all be back on the road to recovery, I was going to say that. Well, I suppose so. But the road to normality come next week. Yes, we shall. Okay, then, you wonderful, beautiful, and dare I say sexy people, I shall let you all go. And I will speak to you next Monday for another episode. Tatty bye.